What's up, y'all? It's Nada, your favorite HR girly. Welcome to another episode of HR and Career Talks. I'm so excited to be here with you guys. And today's topic is going to be to my HR pros. The task that we got to tackle, but we do not look forward to the performance reviews. This is for managers, for HR pros. I'm excited to talk about this because it's a stressful time of the year. We already know that and understand how stressful performance review season is, which is typically around the end of the year for most companies between November, December. I've got some solid tips to make this process smoother and way more effective. Tip number one, you want to prep like a professional, like a pro. Performance reviews aren't just about that one meeting. It's a year-round thing. You want to gather your data, you want to track performance and get feedback from others because no one wants to feel like you're winging it. So when I mean it's a year-round thing, don't just wait for performance review season to come around to tell your employees, to tell your teams that they're doing a great job. Constantly reinforce. You want to recognize. That's very important because people want to know that they are doing a great job. They want to know how you feel about them. So it's very important throughout the year. You want to let them know, hey, great job on that project. Great job on getting that client. Great job on whatever it is that you have been working on. That's the whole purpose. The whole goal is to make sure that they understand that you appreciate them. Now, during the performance review season, when you are sitting down with your employees, that's a more formal process, right? That's where you actually have certain categories, certain things that you go over with them, and you just want to make sure that both of you are on the same page. Now, what you discuss during this time together shouldn't be a surprise to your employee. It shouldn't be something where they are like in the dark or they feel lost about, like, how come I didn't know about this? How come you didn't share this with me sooner? So it's something that you want to make sure you want to always have those constant communication conversations with your employees individually. I know that sometimes we have a large team and we have so many people and moving pieces, but you want to take time to always set that time alone with them. Even if it is a 30-minute meeting, it doesn't have to be too long. It could even be just a quick check-in, a 10-minute standing meeting once a week with them. How are you doing? How's it going? How's it going with that project? Do you need any help from me? Whatever it is, or hey, there was something that I caught that maybe you missed. Let's go over, let's discuss it. How can we fix this? How can we make sure it doesn't happen again? So these are things throughout the year that you have to constantly communicate with your employee. By the time you get to the performance review, there should be no question, no doubt about anything. Now, in order to keep yourself pretty organized around that, if you're an HR professional, you should be providing your managers like some sort of checklist or a template that they can use to follow when it comes to rating their employees or just kind of going down a checklist of different things that you are going to be speaking to them about. Now, if you do not have that, I would definitely recommend and encourage you to do so, to pull up something maybe from like Sherm's website or another HR website where you can just get some talking points or get different areas of performance review that you can discuss with your employees. A lot of companies tie their performance reviews to their company's mission, vision, or values. Maybe even you might have departmental goals, just so many different things. It varies per company and it varies per team. So you just want to make sure that whatever it is that you're doing is going to work best for you. Tip number two, you want to set the tone right. Tone is everything. How you say things is everything. So you want to always make sure that you kick things off with something positive. Even if this employee has not been the best, maybe they haven't been the greatest when it comes to their performance, but you still want to make sure you start off with something positive. You want to maybe start with what the person's doing well before you dive into the toughs. Maybe there's something that they recently did, maybe some sort of recent achievement, and a goal that they obtained, or just maybe a different shout out. They were recognized by a different employee or manager or leadership. So you want to make sure you point those things out before you go into the tough stuff, because no one wants to start a conversation already on a negative note, because then the rest of the conversation is just going to feel negative from both parties. Both sides are going to not be too receptive and they're not going to want to really be communicating and they're not going to be open and engaging. And that's the last thing that you want. You want to set a constructive tone in which it shows that you're there to help them, not just to tear them down, because no one wants to be torn down. So I will encourage you to use the sandwich technique, which is positive, constructive feedback, and then positive. So yes, you want to butter them up, and then you want to lay out whatever it is. Make sure that they know that they are valued and they are appreciated, and not just feel like they're being thrown out into the wolves and trying to figure it out, because that's not a really good feeling. No one likes to feel like that. I don't think anyone should feel like that. Tip number 3, be specific, not vague. You need to improve. It doesn't cut it. That doesn't even come off right, and that doesn't feel right, and that it just doesn't sound right. I wouldn't want anyone talking to me like that. So you want to make sure that you break down the what, the why, the how. This makes the feedback more actionable, and it doesn't leave them guessing what the next steps are. So let's say the what is maybe you didn't achieve that goal that we set for you. And the why is maybe the time management, you didn't set your time incorrectly, or you didn't, obtain the different clients, the amount of clients that were necessary, or whatever it is. And then the how, let's fix it. Let's fix it. This is how we're going to move forward into the next step, into the right direction. So you always want to make sure that there are actionable steps, and encourage them as well to chime in and give feedback, because that's a great way for them to feel like they're a part of something, and not that you're just telling them what to do, because no one wants to feel like they're being told what to do. You want to feel as if you were part of problem solving, finding the solution, and that they had a say in this whole situation. So you want to tie the feedback to any specific goals or the metrics, because remember, vague feedback equals vague results. No one, especially if you're in a leadership position, the last thing you want is for your team, your employees, to not be performing because they don't know the direction that they should go. They don't know where they're doing a disservice to themselves, to the team. They don't know where they're lacking, and they may not know where they're actually doing great. So you should definitely have those conversations with them. Yes, I encourage you to keep it real and honest, but in a nice way. There are nice ways to say things. And if you maybe are like, oh, I have a tough time expressing myself or sharing those things, use a tool like AI to help you write out a script, and just say to them, hey, look, I don't want to sound too robotic, but I just wrote down some notes just to make sure that I didn't miss anything when you and I talked. So I'm just going to run down a list of things or my feedback with you, any actionable items or whatever it may be. So you want to make sure that they feel comfortable with you, and that they feel that, okay, we are accomplishing something together. Leads me into my next tip, which is make it a two-way street. Because performance reviews should be a conversation. It should not be a one-way where you as their manager are telling them, this is what you need to do. That's what you haven't done right. You didn't do this right. You didn't do that right. It should not be like that. If you're that type of manager, I wish you the best of luck, because your team probably hates you. I'm not gonna lie. And I think that you are doing yourself a disservice and your team a disservice when you talk to people like that. Because do you like to be talked like that? I don't think so. Should your boss talk to you like that, I'm pretty sure you're going to go home and you're going to complain to your wife, your husband, your best friend, whomever it is, your confidant. You are not going to be happy with someone talking to you like that, as an adult especially. So please, y'all, don't do that to other people. That is not nice. It's not right. Because remember, it's not a lecture. Performance reviews are a formal process for us to sit down together with between managers and our direct reports and tell them about but the year should not only have that conversation should not only happen once a year. It should really be happening throughout the year. So by the time you get to performance reviews, it shouldn't feel like a lecture. It shouldn't feel like some sort of backlash. It shouldn't feel like any sort of, oh, I'm in trouble. It should actually feel, okay, yeah, we've talked about this. We're working on it together. I already know what to work on for next year. This is something that I need to improve on. By the time I get to performance reviews next year, I'm going to have way better ratings. That's the type of attitude that you want from your direct reports. Remember, ask them questions. get their side of the story and you want to listen, because you don't know what has been going on, especially if you haven't had conversations with your team throughout the year. You don't know what's been going on. People have personal lives. There's a lot of stress that happens outside of work, even inside of work. And some people just don't know how to open up, or maybe you haven't given them that platform to open up. So they're not comfortable with sharing anything with you yet. But you, as their leader, have to make sure you set the tone for your team, for the level of comfortability. No, you're not a therapist. I know that. You don't get paid to do that. But you still want to make sure that you are there for your team. That's what matters. You work together 8, 9, 10 plus hours a day. Your team, they spend the most time at work than they do at home. So you want to make sure that the time spent is time well spent together. Because also remember, this is their time as well. Let them share their challenges and ideas. So one of my pro tips will be to use open-ended questions like, what's one thing you need from me to help you succeed? Put it back on them. Put it back on the direct report, on the employee. And they will let you know exactly maybe something that they've been missing, something that's been lacking, and allow that floor, that open line of communication. Don't make them feel like, I should have never said that. I should have kept my mouth shut, because that's the last thing you want, is to have your team feel as if they couldn't come to their own manager to discuss, to share certain things. My next tip, focus on growth, not just grades. Instead of treating reviews like a report card, shift the focus to growth and development. Talk about career goals, training opportunities, and skills that they could build on. One thing I remember when I used to have my performance reviews with my first HR boss, which still love her to this day, my mentor to this day, she would always have those open lines of communication. It wasn't just during performance reviews, it was throughout the year. But during our performance review time, we would set our goals together. I would let her know if there were any trainings, any classes that I wanted to attend. Maybe I wanted to obtain my certification, get my degree, whatever it was. That was the time where I shared with her, hey, I have these goals. How can we work together to make sure that I achieve them? And she, as my manager, would make sure that she would help me out in any which way that she possibly could, that was in her control. So I appreciate her for that, because if we didn't have that communication, that sort of relationship, I probably wouldn't have my certification today, or maybe I would have, but I would have got it later, my degree. So many opportunities and so many things that if we didn't have that openness, I probably wouldn't have the experience that I have today in my career. So set up a development plan together. It makes it clear that you're invested in their success. No one wants to work at a company where they feel like all they're doing is like running on a hamster wheel and nothing is happening. Like, I feel like all I'm doing is just running, but I'm not getting any promotions. I'm not getting any sort of investment from the company. That's not the right thing to do. And if you are a company that is running like that, look at your retention, look at your turnover rates, and you're going to see the numbers don't lie. It'll be in there. The proof is in the pudding. You will see it in there that something that you're doing is not working. So now you need to figure it out. My next tip is going to be keep it real, but respectful. Y'all know I'm all about real talk, because I like to make sure that we understand it. I'm not going to throw out these HR corporate jargons at y'all, because a lot of times it just makes me sound too corporate-ish, and I don't like that. I like to keep it real. But still got to keep it cute and respectful. So yes, you want to be honest, but don't be a jerk about it. Constructive feedback doesn't mean harsh feedback. It's all about delivering the message with empathy and respect. I have a video that has gone viral where I explained that I had rejected a candidate that I was interviewing for a leasing job. And unfortunately, she came to the interview dressed like she was going to the club, like boobs were out, mini dress and all. It was just too distracting. And I was like, I can't do this. But I shared with her, I took off my recruiter hat, and it was woman to woman, and I gave her feedback, and I said, I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but I'm just trying to guide you into the right direction. I see that you have the potential, the willingness, because you're here today, but let me help you out. Even if you don't get a job with me, with us, you might take your talent somewhere else, but at least now you know for the next interview what to do. She eventually came back, changed, fully dressed into the right clothing, and she got the job. Now, it wasn't the clothes that made her get the job, it was more about her character. It was the fact that she took the constructive feedback that I gave her and immediately applied it and then said, you know what? I'm going to go back and I'm going to redeem myself. So she was definitely redeemed. That's the same thing that you want from your employees. Your employees want your constructive feedback. They don't want it to be in a harsh way where it's like, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, why didn't you this? Why didn't you that? No, it's all about how can we improve? How can we do better from here? Because imagine, how would you feel if you receive feedback in a harsh way? Are you going to be receptive? I don't think so. So don't be acting like that with other people. My next tip is going to be wrap up with clear next steps. Don't leave things hanging. This is not a movie. This is not a series. There's no cliffhanger. This is not a novel series. You want to make sure that you end that conversation with clear action items and timelines. What should they keep doing, stop doing, or start doing? Make sure that they walk away with a plan. Make sure that by the time that they leave that meeting, they feel well equipped, they feel heard, they feel valued, they feel recognized, they feel empowered. So those are things that you want to make sure that your employees feel. You do not want your employee to leave out of their performance review conversation hating their job, hating you, hating the company, because then trust me, they're going to start looking for another job immediately. They're going to get on LinkedIn or whatever job board, job site, and they're going to start applying. As soon as you know it, within a few months, you're not going to have that employee, all based on that conversation. It happens. It pretty much does happen. And when you do set that plan with your employees, always live up to your word. Stand on business. Don't give false hope, false promises, because that's the last thing people want. I tell you, in my career, I definitely have had false promises, false hope served to me on a platter, and I have worked my ass off trying to go for that promotion. But it's a horrible feeling when you get to that point that you thought was going to be the end or the mark of where you get your promotion at, and then you're rejected, and it's like, what? That really, trust me, it is not a good feeling. It sucks. I've been there before. So stand on business. If you are going to tell your employees, let's work on you going to your class to get certified, to get a certification, stand on that. Give them that. Don't just promise them and then throughout the year, they're like, oh, what's happening? Nothing's happening. Now you look like a liar. Now you look like someone that I cannot trust. Now you look like someone that I am not going to confide in. Now you look like someone that is just dishonest. And I don't want to work with someone like that. So guess what? Now I'm going to take my talents to our competitor, all because you didn't stand on business, stand on your word. So yeah. So after that conversation, follow up with an email summarizing or give it an action plan. Just make sure that nothing gets lost in translation, because during a conversation, things go in one ear, out the other. We hear things, we miss things, we don't. So much happens in a conversation. So you want to make sure to always document. Go back after your conversation. It was great meeting with you. I enjoyed our performance review conversation. I think it was constructive. I think it was great. I think it was productive. Here are some actionable steps. Here are some goals for next year. Here are items that we want to work on, areas of improvement, whatever it may be. You definitely want to make sure to reiterate, just kind of close the loop at the end of it all. Because that way there is no miscommunication and there is no he say, she say. If it's documented, it's there. We can always reference back to that document, reference back to that email. But if it's not, it's your word against mine. So make sure to always document. And that's why HR will also ask, hey, send us those performance reviews so we can keep in that person's file. Because should you leave the company, and if ever we need to have a conversation or there's a new manager for that person, we can always reference back to what the performance reviews look like. And performance reviews are tied with salary. A lot of times that's how companies will determine to give their employees their salary raise. Performance reviews, that plays a big part. Well, if you found these tips helpful, hit that like button, subscribe for more HR hacks and career advice, and drop a comment below on your best performance review tip or horror story, because I want to hear it all, honey. I want to hear the tea. All right, y'all. Catch y'all next time. Toodles.